The hour to which the House adjourned having arrived, the House will be in order. Members and guests are asked to remain standing and join with me in pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's where I used to be.
Porter Committee.
The Committee on Rules and the Committees on Rules of the two branches acting concurrently reports recommending that Joint Rule 12 be suspended on a petition of Dylan A. Fernandez, Kip A. Diggs, and others relative to establishing year-round daily commuter rail service to Cape Cod to the Committee on Transportation.
Mr. Fernandez now moves suspension of the rules. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Rules are suspended. Question now is on suspension of Joint Rule 12. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Joint Rule 12 is suspended. Border Committee.
The Committee on Ways and Means, to whom was referred the House bill relative to salary range transparency, House number 4100, reports recommend the same ought to pass with an amendment by substitution of a bill with the same title, House number 4109. The Committee on Steering Policy reports recommending that the matter be scheduled for consideration by the House with the amendment recommended by the Committee on Ways and Means pending.
Mr. Mikowitz of Boston moves suspension of Rule 7A. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. 7A is suspended. Second reading of the bill.
An act relative to salary range transparency, House number 4100.
First question is on the Ways and Means Amendment. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Question now is on ordering the bill as amended to a third reading. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Bill is ordered to a third reading as amended. House will be in a brief recess. Mr. Wong of Saugus now moves that the House stand in recess till the hour of 1:30 p.m. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. House stands in recess till the hour of 1:30 p.m.
House will be in order. The following bills, having been rightly prepared, come before us for final passage. House 3964, an act exempting Joanne Riccadelli from the maximum age requirement for firefighters in the town of Wilmington. House 3824, an act providing for the appointment of a commissioner of public health in the city of Brockton. Question comes on passing the bills to be enacted. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Bills are passed to be enacted. Right here. The chair is pleased to welcome to the right of the rostrum the California State Assembly members, along with their respective staff. Assembly Member Jennifer Ford, District 30. Assembly Member Dawn Adis, District 30. Assembly Member Jim Wood, District 2. Assemblymember Rick Chavez Zabor, District 51. Assembly Staff Member Tammy Martin, representatives of Vineyard Offshore, Tatum Ackler, Rick Umoff, Macy Jones. They are visiting from California and attending the American Clean Power Conference on offshore wind at the Heinz Convention Center. Please welcome the California State Assembly. House will be in a brief recess. House will be in order. Mr. Jones of North Reading doubts the presence of a quorum. A roll call will be in progress. Court officers will alert the members that a quorum roll call is in progress.
This is roll call number 58, 58. Mr. Jones of North Reading asks unanimous consent to withdraw his quorum roll call. Does the chair hear objection? Chair hears none.
read the number.
The chair has been informed that Bill number 4109 has been released by the bills in third reading. Mr. Cutler of Pembroke. Mr. Cutler of Pembroke moves suspension of the rules. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Rules are suspended.
Third reading of the bill.
Third reading of the bill.
An act relative to salary range transparency, House number 4109.
Question comes on passing the bill to be engrossed. The chair recognizes Mr. Cutler of Duxbury.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. Through you and to the members. I rise in support of House Bill 4109, also known as the Frances Perkins Workplace Equity Act. When the vote is taken, I ask that it be taken by a call of the yeas and the nays.
Mr. Cutler moves that when a vote be taken, it be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. Those joining with them will rise. Division 1. 20, sufficient number having arisen when vote be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. The chair respectfully requests that members return to their seats and subdue their conversation. Court officers will clear the aisles. Mr. Cutler of Duxbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before I begin my remarks, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank everyone who has reached out to me in recent days. As many of you know, I recently underwent cancer surgery. The good news is that my doctor tells me it was very successful. I'm home now recovering and in good spirits, and I'm hoping to join all of you back in this chamber very soon. In the meantime, I appreciate your indulgence in affording me the privilege of addressing this body remotely on a piece of legislation I'm proud to have filed and worked on. I'll speak briefly on the substance of the bill, but first I want to make some acknowledgments. First, I'm grateful to you, Mr. Speaker, for bringing this bill to the floor in such an expeditious manner. I'm proud that the House continues to lead and take bold action on workplace equity. Many thanks as well to Chairman Michaelwitz and the team at the House Ways and Means Committee for perfecting the bill and ushering it through the process smoothly and promptly. I've had the pleasure of partnering with the gentle lady from Mattapan on this legislation this term. She has been a great teammate, and I can say definitively that the bill before us today is stronger thanks to her voice and thoughtful leadership. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge the gentleman from Belmont and the gentle lady from Somerville who filed companion legislation and worked together with us to develop this consensus bill. Speaking of the gentle lady from Somerville, I'd also like to recognize my Senate counterpart on the Labor and Workforce Committee, who is a sponsor of this legislation and has worked closely with us to report out a bill that has drawn broad support across the spectrum. Speaking of the Labor Committee, I'd also want to thank our great committee staff who have worked extensively on this issue, including Cole, Emily, Rob, and Becky. I'm very fortunate to have such a great team to work with. And of course, we would not be here without the staunch advocacy of the Wage Equity Now Coalition, a diverse group of more than 80 organizations, including worker rights and racial justice groups, labor unions, social service advocates, business and philanthropic leaders, and women's advocacy organizations. Their energy, drive, and advocacy created the momentum to advance this issue. I am grateful to all the members, and especially to Evelyn Murphy and Megan Driscoll, who led this coalition and have long championed this cause. I also want to thank all the business leaders who shared feedback and worked with us collaboratively to produce a bill that will benefit both employees and employers. Now, earlier, I mentioned that this bill was also known as the Frances Perkins Workplace Equity Act. Some of you may already know who Frances Perkins was, but for those who don't, she was a Massachusetts resident who had an accomplished career as an advocate for worker rights. She was the first woman to serve as U.S. Secretary of Labor and the first woman appointed to a presidential cabinet in the nation's history. We honor her legacy today with this workplace equity legislation, which will help us address persistent gender and racial wage gaps in the Commonwealth. The data is clear. Women working full-time jobs in Massachusetts still earn an average of 86 cents for every dollar that men make, according to research by the National Women's Law Center. The disparity is even greater for women of color. Native American women earn 66 cents for every dollar, Black women earn 58 cents, and Latina women earn just 53 cents. We took significant steps to bring more fairness and equality to the workplace with the Massachusetts Equal Pay Act passed in 2016. Our bill today strengthens that landmark legislation in key ways. Now, first, the bill helps level the playing field by requiring that job postings include the salary or hourly range for the position. Research shows that pay range transparency in the hiring process is one of the best tools to help close historic gender and racial wage gaps, because women and people of color are more likely to underestimate their earning power. The legislation also protects an employee's right to ask for pay ranges in the workplace, including when they are offered a promotion or a job transfer. These measures ensure that employees are armed with the knowledge to make informed decisions. But it's not just all about employees and job seekers. These measures will also help employers to build trust, promote fairness, and attract and retain top talent. And let's face it, the hiring process can be costly for businesses. Investing personnel time in candidates who don't share the same salary expectations isn't a good use of company resources. It's far better to set salary expectations from the outset so both parties are speaking the same language. Including salary ranges in job postings is a common sense and growing practice that some businesses already do because it works. In some industries, companies may worry about being at a competitive disadvantage if they share employee pay ranges. But having a statewide law eliminates this problem by putting everyone on an equal footing. And nothing in the bill ties the hands of employers or creates any new costs. Employees can still set a salary range they deem appropriate as long as it is disclosed in good faith. The bottom line is that pay transparency is good policy for employees and employers alike. I do want to be clear that these salary transparency measures are not meant to be punitive, and we have built an enforcement mechanism into the legislation in that same spirit. There will be a public awareness campaign to help educate employers about the change. The Attorney General's office is empowered to enforce the act, and employers will receive a warning for the first offense, with fines only for repeated violations. There is also a 2-year grace period where employers can take corrective action without any penalty at all. Now, the second part of the bill has to do with data collection. As the saying goes, you can't change what you don't measure. These data collection provisions will require employers with more than 100 employees to share their federal equal opportunity employment reports with the state which will then be collected and published in aggregate to help identify gender and racial wage gaps by industry. This information will help shed light on key workplace demographics, building on the great work of the Boston Women's Workforce Council. The data itself will be invaluable, but so too is the act of collecting the data, which can also prompt change on its own. Taken together, these measures offer a bold solution to empower workers, narrow gender and racial pay gaps, and help businesses attract and retain talent. Currently, 10 states require salary range transparency in job postings or during the hiring process. If passed, our legislation would be one of the strongest such laws in the nation by requiring salary range transparency both in job postings and upon request, and by including these new data collection provisions. In this tight labor market, we want to attract new workers to Massachusetts and make sure that we retain the ones we have. This bill will make Massachusetts a more competitive and more equitable place to work. I urge a favorable vote. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Ms. Barber of Somerville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and through you to the members. I rise today in support of an act relative to salary range transparency, also known as the Frances Perkins Workplace Equity Act. I would like to start by thanking the Speaker for taking up this bill so quickly after it was voted out of committee, which underscores the urgency of this issue. I'd also like to thank the gentleman from the North End and his team for bringing this bill before us quickly out of his committee. I greatly appreciate the gentleman from Duxbury and his whole team who spent tireless hours bringing this bill together, bringing partners together, working with businesses, and getting us to this place here today. And we wish him a speedy recovery to come back here soon. So this act pulls from two bills, and I'd like to thank the other lead sponsor on House 1940, an act relative to transparency in the workplace, the gentleman from North Cambridge, for partnering with me on this issue. And I'd also like to thank the gentlelady from Mattapan for her bill with the gentleman from Duxbury, and also my senator from Somerville for their hard work on an act relative to salary range transparency. Women leaders from around Massachusetts organized to create the Wage Equity Now Coalition, spearheaded by former Lieutenant Governor Evelyn Murphy, who is here with us today in the gallery, to continue to fight for pay equity. I am so grateful for their dedication and their grit that helped us to get to this place today. Finally, I want to thank my colleagues in the Caucus of Women Legislators. As House Vice Chair of that caucus, I have the honor of working with women legislators together to support other women across the Commonwealth. This bill is one of our top priorities this session and fits in our overall goal of elevating women's economic opportunity. So we came together in 2016 to address pay equity and passed one of the strongest pay equity laws in the country. This legislation took important steps to close the wage gap, preventing employers from requiring salary history on applications and defining comparable work. Yet the wage gap still persists. Women earn just 81 cents on the dollar compared to men, and that gap has actually increased since the data was first collected in 2016. Moreover, Native American women earn 59 cents for every dollar, Black women earn 57 cents, and Latinas earn just 51 cents. These data points are not only startling, but they're unacceptable. So today we are responding. The bill before us is a critical step to achieve true pay equity. House 4109 strengthens the Commonwealth's Equal Pay Act and helps level the playing field to reduce persistent wage gaps. Under this legislation, employers are required to disclose the salary or hourly pay range in job postings and when offering someone a promotion. In addition, new data collection will identify gender and wage gaps, and as the chairman said, formal reporting is necessary because we cannot change what we cannot measure. The Frances Perkins Workplace Equity Act is vital to the work of eliminating wage discrimination and creating an equitable workforce here in Massachusetts. When passed, this will become one of the strongest salary range transparency bills in the country. At a time when so much divides us, this is an area we have been and can continue to work together on as we ensure economic empowerment for women around the state. I look forward to voting in favor of this bill to make sure our Commonwealth a more equitable place for all workers, and I ask that you support this bill as well. Thank you.
Mr. Rogers of Cambridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members. The bill before us today is a big step forward for equality in the workplace and economic prosperity for all. By passing the legislation, the House takes a stand against workplace inequality, and in doing that, we make Massachusetts a better place to live and to work. As you've heard from others, you can't manage what you don't measure. That's certainly true in trying to advance wage equality, I should say. And so the piece of the bill I filed along with my friend and colleague, the gentlelady from Somerville, focuses on the disclosure of data pertaining to job category, wages, as well as demographic information such as gender and race. That data will then be aggregated across industries and ultimately disclosed in reports. Once that information is gathered and disclosed in reports, pay gaps will be better understood, and efforts can be focused on addressing the pay gaps, particularly in industries that appear to be lagging. When you couple that data with the salary disclosure requirements, it is a powerful 1-2 punch to advance pay equity. I'd like to thank the many advocates from the Wage Equity Now Coalition, including Lieutenant Governor Evelyn Murphy, Megan Driscoll, many business leaders from the Associated Industries of Massachusetts, the Boston Foundation, and many others. I want to thank again the gentlelady from Somerville, my partner in this legislation. I want to give a big thanks to Chair Cutler and his staff who worked tirelessly on this bill over multiple sessions under difficult circumstances. I want to thank my staff who worked so hard on the bill, including Kira Arnott and Carly Pierce. I want to thank the gentleman from Boston, and the Ways and Means Committee improved the bill and moved it quickly. We're very grateful. And last but not least, I want to thank our Speaker, who not only on this legislation, but ever since he has assumed the office, has moved legislation on offshore wind, on civil rights, on education, and countless other topics. And I think we have to be mindful of the moment. When we look to Washington and the chaos, when they can't even maintain a Speaker in office, and we've been lucky these past number of years to have the gentleman from Quincy leading this body and moving forward on countless issues. So thank you all, and I ask for your vote. Take care.
Ms. Kane of Shrewsbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and through you to the members. I rise today to speak in support of an act relative to salary range transparency in both my role as the House Chair of the Women's Caucus and as a former small business owner. Following a thorough and extensive process at the beginning of this legislative session, the Women's Caucus selected this bill as just one of 5 legislative priorities, fitting under our strategic priority to elevate women's economic opportunity and to eliminate barriers. Representing 31% of the legislature, our 62-member bipartisan and bicameral caucus selected this bill as a priority given our history in supporting pay equity legislation and because this bill represents the next step towards true pay equity. The caucus has long advocated for pay equity, working to help pass the original 2016 bill, a monumental piece of legislation that took important steps to close the gender wage gap by preventing employers from requiring salary history on job applications, defining comparable work, and more to ensure equal pay for equal work here in Massachusetts. The bill before the House today, which has bipartisan support from our caucus and significant business support, represents the next step to ensure true equity and competitiveness in Massachusetts workplaces. With passage of this bill, employers of a certain size will be required to disclose pay ranges in job postings. We know that across sectors, women, and particularly women of color, continue to make less than what white men make. Knowing a salary range while applying to new positions is an important tool to narrow these gender and racial gaps by giving applicants more mechanisms to understand and negotiate for the wages that they deserve. Knowing the salary range of a position also allows applicants to better select which jobs to apply for, in line with salaries commensurate with their experience. This saves businesses the headaches of getting to the final step in an interview process just to have a qualified candidate turn down the job when informed of the salary. This bill will also help collect more comprehensive data to allow us to better understand the existing wage gap, in turn to help us make better effective policy in closing it. The Women's Caucus is grateful to the Speaker, to the gentleman from Reading, the Minority Leader, who is also supportive of this legislation, the gentleman from the North End, as well as the bill sponsors, the gentleman from Duxbury, the gentlelady from Mattapan, the gentleman from Cambridge, and the gentlelady, the vice chair of our caucus from Somerville, for their work to get us to this point today. We are also proud to stand alongside the many organizations who are part of the Wage Equity Now coalition who helped us get here today. I respectfully urge each of you to vote yes on this important bill, which helps to eliminate barriers to women's economic opportunity. Thank you.
Ms. Fluker Oakley of Boston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and through you to the members. I'm grateful for Speaker Mariano's leadership, which has been essential to the progression of this legislation and has shown the Commonwealth that this body is committed to closing the gender pay gap. I rise today to speak in support of this bill, an act relative to salary range transparency, also known as the Frances Perkins Workplace Equity Act, sponsored by my dear friend from Duxbury, and I'm grateful for his continued leadership in his illustrious team, and also to my dear friend from Somerville and my dear friend from Cambridge. I also extend my gratitude to the advocates and organizations from the Wage Equity Now Coalition, especially Megan Driscoll and Evelyn Murphy, who have worked tirelessly to ensure that this legislation move forward. I'm also grateful for the support of the Women's Caucus and their steadfast support and diligent leadership. Finally, thank you to those in the business community who support this important work, like the Associated Industries of Massachusetts and the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. This act will help close the gender wage gap by requiring employees to disclose salary or hourly pay range information, protecting the right to ask for pay ranges, and creating a process to collect data to identify gender and racial gaps within business sectors. This data will give us further insight into the disparities being experienced that will lead to tailored, equitable solutions targeting those who need them the most. This bill also holds companies accountable to providing transparent salary information and will shed a light on any potential inequities. Evidence from the National Women's Law Center highlights that although there have been efforts made to close the gap, we continue to fail working women by not ensuring equal pay. Massachusetts was ranked number 17 in a list comparing the wage gap nationally. Women in the Commonwealth experienced a larger gap than women in New York, New Hampshire, California, and Florida, just to name a few. From 2019 to 2021, there was no overall increase in the state's gender wage gap. However, Black and Latina employees continued to average the lowest annual compensation. Research published by the Boston Women's Workforce Council found that Black and Latina women in Greater Boston experienced larger wage gaps than their white women counterparts. In fact, the average annual compensation of women of color in 2021 was $5,533 less than that of white women. This data highlights the disproportionate burden that women of color bear when it comes to low wages. Even myself, in previous employment, when I was negotiating my salary and asked for a number that I knew reflected the work that was before me, I was not met at the number I requested. The following year, the same company hired a search firm for my exact position in a neighboring city, similar market, and posted that exact salary that I had requested a year prior. Imagine my chagrin. What if we had had this legislation back then? How many of us would not have had lost wages like those I experienced? And for any woman amongst us, we know that the rising cost of childcare, elder care, living experiences, every dollar truly does count. This bill has very real implications for women like myself and all the women across the Commonwealth. Employees and prospective applicants are not the only ones who benefit from this legislation. It also works to further strengthen our business community. More transparency upfront in the hiring process not only has the potential to attract quality candidates who feel valued for the work that they do, knowing that they're being paid what they deserve, but it also ensures alignment on the front end regarding compensation. So this way companies aren't spending valuable time, energy, and monetary resources in what can be a months-long interview process and recruitment process. As I stand here today, I reflect on the history of the women's movement and the many women who sacrificed so much to advocate for equality in every aspect of our lives. This act put forth here today will empower generations of women to come. For all of you who might have daughters, nieces, granddaughters, this is going to set them up for success in the future. I'm so proud to be a part of this moment with all of you. I look forward to a future where every woman in the Commonwealth can accept a job knowing that she will be paid equitably. Thank you again to all the advocates, my dear friend from Duxbury, my dear friend from Somerville, and my friend from North Cambridge, to Mr. Speaker, Chair Michaelwitz, and to all of those who are working to make our Commonwealth a more equitable place to work and live in. I urge you to vote in support of this bill. Thank you.
Roll call having been ordered, roll call will commence forthwith. Voting machines will be open for 3 minutes.
This is going to be roll call number 58, 58.
For the edification of the members, the chair does not anticipate any further roll calls. For the edification of the members, the chair does not anticipate any further roll calls. Have all members voted who wish to do so? Time for voting has expired. Clerk will display the tally. 148 in the affirmative, 8 in the negative. The bill is passed to be engrossed.
At the request of Mr. Carey of East Hampton, will the members and guests please stand in a moment of silent tribute in the respect of the memory of William A. Casey III. Bill dedicated himself and his work as a fleet technician with the Massachusetts State Police for 36 years. He was incredibly proud of his work and reliability and incredible work ethic, gathered respect from colleagues throughout the state. He is survived by his wife, Laurie, daughter Megan, son John, and parents Bill and Judy. His loving sister, extended family members, and countless friends. In eternal rest, he joins his brother Sean Carey, who passed away in April of this year. Let us stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Paper from the Senate.
The House bill clarifying the application of judicial retirement law, House number 4082, comes from the Senate with the endorsement that has been passed to be engrossed in concurrence by the Senate with an amendment by inserting before the enacting clause an emergency preamble. The Committee on Bills in the third reading, to whom was referred this amendment today, reports recommending that the amendment is correctly drawn.
Question now comes on concurrence. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. The ayes have it. The House concurs. House will be in a brief recess. House to be in order. Following gross bill, M. rightly introduced, prepared is now before the House for final passage, an act clarifying the application of judicial retirement law. Under the Constitution, a separate vote is required. Those voting will rise. First Division, 2. Second Division, 4. Third Division, 1, 2, 3, 9. Fourth Division, 2. Those in opposition, First Division 0, Second Division 0, Third Division 0, Fourth Division 0. On this matter, 17 members having voted in the affirmative, none in the negative. The emergency preamble is adopted. Mr. Mariano Quincy, officer not in the hands of the clerk, clerk of the order.
Ordered that when the House adjourns today, adjourn to meet tomorrow, 11 o'clock a.m.
Question now is on adoption of the order. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The order is adopted. Mr. Jones of North Reading now moves that the House stands adjourned. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. House stands adjourned to meet tomorrow, Thursday, 11 a.m., in an informal session.